Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the June 26th, 2025 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the agenda today, there are speaker request forms to the left of the dais. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the staff seated over on that side of the room. At this time, we would also like to ask that if any member of the audience has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. The public hearing on item number 1, the approval of the May 22nd, 2025 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting minutes, is hereby opened.
Motion to approve.
All right, Vince made the motion to approve and Karen seconded that motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2.
Good morning. This item is a variance to reduce the front yard setback from 35 feet to 19.7 feet for a shed located on the property north of East St. Charles Street and Creek Drive. So the property is zoned flood hazard district. It's developed with 2 storage sheds. The property is owned, or the future land use is light industrial. The property is accessed by Creek Drive, which is classified as a minor arterial street on the city's major street plan. So the city is going to be repaving Creek Drive from East St. Patrick Street up north to over the bridge over Rapid Creek. So to facilitate those street improvements, they're planning or proposing to acquire a portion of the subject property and widen the existing right-of-way. So this is a site plan of the property. That shed is currently set back less than 35 feet from the front property line and is considered legal non-conforming. And once the city acquires that additional right-of-way, that setback will be reduced to 19.7 feet and therefore requires this variance. So one of the purposes of the front yard setback requirement is it's to allow space for the future expansion of public utilities and infrastructure. So this variance aligns perfectly with the purpose and intent of a front yard setback requirement. So this is looking at the property from Creek Drive. You can see the storage shed over the fence line there. And then this is looking north on Creek and looking south along that same street. So staff is recommending that this item be approved because the existing building location in the street improvement project we believe constitutes a special circumstance justifying approval. The variance aligns with the purpose and intent of the front yard setback requirement. It does not exclude a land use that's otherwise excluded in the district, so it's for permitted uses, and it does not appear to be injurious to the neighborhood. So with that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Thank you. Anything from the commission on this one?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
And I'm assuming the reasoning is what was mentioned, that it's not injurious to the neighborhood and that it's the minimum adjustment necessary for use.
Correct.
And Vicky, special circumstances as well of the street improvement project.
All the above.
Absolutely. So the benefit to the public at large outweighs any adverse impact of reducing the setback. So for all of those reasons and that public advantage, we would request that you support this variance.
All right. Vince made the motion. Eric Heikus seconded it. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.
So this item is to allow a 2,400 square foot temporary tent in lieu of the 200 square foot maximum, and to allow that tent to remain on the property until August 19th in lieu of the 14-day maximum. So the property is owned general commercial district. It's owned by a nonprofit organization. The applicant recently obtained a building permit to use the existing building to process and retail meat, as well as to sell body-based products and ceremonial items. So the future land use is mixed-use commercial. It's accessed by Haynes Avenue, which is classified as a principal arterial street on the city's major street plan. And then this is the proposed site plan. So that tent is going to be located it's currently located in the northwest corner of the property. The applicant has indicated that the tent will only be used on intermittent Saturdays, and it'll be for community-based events. There's going to be licensed security, and the applicant's food truck is going to be on site for the duration of those Saturday events. That tent will have 4 picnic tables underneath it, and there's going to be seating for 24 people. They're not going to allow alcohol on the premise, and they're not going to be selling alcohol either. So this variance does not grant land use otherwise excluded in the district. All the land uses that are being proposed are permitted in the general commercial district. So this is just an image of the tent diagram. The mean height is going to be 13.5 feet. The sidewalls of the tent, they're going to remain unattached to allow for airflow and visibility. The applicant has also indicated that they'd be willing to remove the tent awning at the conclusion of each event to reduce the spatial and the visual impact. So after each Saturday event, they would be removing that tent awning. So the other thing is this variance, when we were looking at it, didn't appear to be injurious to the neighborhood, which is another one of the approval criteria that we look at when we're evaluating a variance. So this is just an image from the applicant's product proposal. One of the purpose of the temporary use regulations is that it offers flexibility from the building code and the zoning code requirements to accommodate short-term business or community activities. So this variance does align with the purpose and intent of the zoning requirement and the temporary use regulations. So this is just an image of the tent that's on the property currently. The frame is up, and you can see the applicant's food truck to the side there. There is sufficient parking on this property to accommodate the food truck, to accommodate the retail store that's on the property, and to accommodate that tent. And then this is just an image of that retail store that was recently completed. The applicant is just going through final inspections right now to get that all wrapped up. And then this is looking west on Lindbergh Avenue, looking east along that same street, looking south along Haynes Avenue, and then looking north along that same street. So staff is bringing forward this item today without a recommendation. If the Zoning Board of Adjustment determines that it meets the approval criteria, then it can be approved with the stipulations noted. It does align with the purpose and intent of the temporary use regulations, doesn't appear to be injurious to the neighborhood, but the concern is that that there's not a special circumstance or condition on the property that would warrant approval, and reasonable use of the land currently exists on that site. So with that, I'll stand by for any questions. The applicant is in the audience as well.
Thank you. We do have a speaker request from Annie Bashand on this item, if you'd like to address the Planning Commission. And even though I've identified you, if you could identify yourself when you're at the microphone, that helps with our meeting minutes.
Thank you, Eric. Annie Bashan. I'm the CFO for Wombly-Ska Community Development. I don't know how many of you know who Wombly-Ska is, but just really briefly, in 2005, Wombly-Ska started up at Anamosa, which is just a couple blocks away from this location by Duran White Eagle, and in a desire to help out the north side. And that has continued ever since then. So 20 years later, we have the property up at 522 Anamosa with the teen center up there that is active and has brought great opportunities and resources to the community. We purchased the Wild Idea processing plant out on Valley Drive with a transitional house for some guys out there that work at the plant. And then we purchased the Haynes Avenue that was a vacant graffiti-ridden structure up on Haynes. Our goal as one of the only nonprofit community development organizations in the city is to improve the north side. That's it. to bring jobs to the north side. Over the last 18 months, we have provided 55 new positions in the city for young people. And I just don't know of anybody else that has done that. And the purpose of this structure is there's just not a gathering place for elders, for individuals in the community to be able to come together, enjoy some buffalo, talk to each other, bring their arts and crafts and show people how they make and design the different artisan crafts that they have available. Our community has been challenged by gang violence, by drugs, by guns, and has made it in the newspaper for all those things and rarely for the great things that go on. And there's a lot of good people up on the north side, always has been. And there's a lot of effort to improve it. And this is just one of those aspects. We realize that the things that we do are kind of odd to some people in the city. We get it. We would have come forward to do this. It just never occurred to us that we would need a permit for this. Honestly, we're not as sophisticated as a lot of other people around here. We just do our best, to meet the needs of our people and to improve the north side, to make sure that our kids have an opportunity at a life that is much better than what we had growing up. If you have any questions, I'm happy to address it, and I appreciate the opportunity to address all of you today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
if I might, all the uses that Annie identified just now would be permitted in general commercial. Really, the issue is just the temporary tent because of its size and duration on the site. I wanted Tanner to leave this graphic up because you can see that if the awning is removed when it's not being used on Saturdays, it really does have a minimal impact on the neighborhood. And then there's visual transparency through it, and really goes to that spatial element of crowding in on the adjacent properties. So if it is the desire of the Zoning Board of Adjustment to support this variance, there are two recommended stipulations of approval, and one would be that the awning is removed after each event. And then they just need to button up their building permit on the meat retail outlet. They haven't quite finished that one yet.
May I address that, sir?
Sure, Annie.
So, again, we're not too sophisticated sometimes. We were under the impression that the permit had been finished, that all the finals. So I got hold of the city. They all went through yesterday. We have a few corrections to make. We'll make those corrections today. The electrician, in fact, is down there right now. The plumber is down there right now making the necessary corrections, and we'll complete that permit as requested.
Great.
And one other clarification, there is no meat processing going on there. We're only selling meat.
Okay. All right, Eric Hikas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be abstaining on this one. We're involved on this as part of the professional team.
Okay. Vince Vidal? Oh, sorry. Haven made a motion to approve this item with the two stipulations,
I'll second that.
and Vince seconded that item. Discussion on the item, Vince?
I actually, Annie did a good job of presenting, the purpose and the intent for the project, which is commendable. And also, one of the big questions I had was regarding the structure and the cover of the poles, and with our weather and the wind around here, I thought, but they've taken that step to make sure that area will continue to be protected. So she showed great intent, so I'm fully in favor of this. Thank you.
Karen Ballman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a person who's raised in the north side, I think this is awesome that what you do. I mean, we always need to change that thought of what's the north side and what's other parts of the city. So I think that's great. As far as the tent is concerned, they've done so many things to make this work for them, and agreed to take the tents down, the covering down after each event and things like that. You got plenty of parking. And I know that your food is awesome. I've had tons of people say, you need to go up and try their products and stuff. So again, I'm also in support of this.
Mike Kwasny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I concur with everything that was been said so far. I think it's a great thing to add to the community, and taking it down, it's not a visual problem. I guess as far as the parking, I hope this is really successful. I hope it's a big draw, and I hope it's a successful program for the people putting it on. I could see where the parking could be a problem, and I guess I would just ask if that's the case with you having the facility close by down the street, maybe if there's plans to, if this is a problem, to bring people to the location and use the parking that you have at the other location.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mike. So yes, we have a shuttle that could go back and forth between our location up on Haynes Avenue and Anamosa. I've also so the thrift store that's Goodwill.
Yeah.
Thank you. The Goodwill is up there, and the manager and I have spoken regularly. They're really happy that we're there, and in fact, the graffiti has gone down since we've been there. And so, when we had our grand opening, we had parking over there, and the owners of Albertano's, we know them, and the casino over there, and Harbor Freight, they're all okay with it as well. They appreciate the business that's being brought to the location, and they're happy with us, and so that's all been addressed as well. But we're happy to use our location up on Anamosa. All the staff park up there, and then we shuttle them down if there's a large event.
Sounds like you got a good plan, and I wish you success.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other comments on the motion? The motion is to approve the variance to allow that tent with the 2 stipulations. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries with Eric Hikas abstaining. That's our last item on Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Karen made the motion.
Second.
Vince?
Yes.
Sorry. I couldn't recognize your voice that time.
Excuse me.
All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. That'll move us to the Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for June 26, 2025. Again, if any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda, please just grab a speaker request form on the left side of the room and hand it to the staff seated over there. And if you haven't silenced your cell phones, please do so now. Items 1 through 6 have been placed on the consent calendar today and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the City Council. The City Council will make the final decision with the exception of the following items. Item 5, 25 PD 018, and item 6, 25 UR 019. The Rapid City Planning Commission's actions on these items are final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Department of Community Development by close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. Are there any items 1 through 6 that staff would like removed today?
No, thank you.
Any items 1 through 6 that any planning commissioner would like removed for separate consideration? And are there any items 1 through 6 that any audience member would like removed for separate consideration? The chair would then entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items 1 through 6 in accordance with staff's recommendation.
Motion to approve items 1 through 6 in accordance with the staff's recommendations.
All right, I'm just checking this. Okay, got it. Vince made the motion to approve, and Mike seconded that motion. All those in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, sorry.
Good morning, Chair, Planning Commission, Jessica Olson with Current Planning. So today we're hearing 25 PD 014. This is a major amendment to a planned development overlay to allow an oversized garage. With this, so under the planned development overlay, we look at conditional uses as well as exception processes. This is also has an exception for the height. So I'll explain. We've looked at a couple oversized garages recently that preferably we like to see them behind the house. This is another situation where there's topographical issues with the site that they were not able to place it behind the house. So the location of this garage would be in this area. It's primarily flat down here. There is a slope down from the house. The area with the house is pretty flat. It's been graded, and then there's these pretty steep retaining walls on this side as well. It slopes up to this side and then down to the north here. This is in the low-density residential 1 district, which allows single-family residences as well as accessory residential structures. So the detached garage would be allowed in this neighborhood. Low-density neighborhood is the future land use category that's primarily for residential neighborhoods as well. I'll note this is a larger lot. It's 1.69 acres. The neighborhood itself is also some larger lots. This area is pretty much where the PD was. So they range in size from a little over a half an acre to almost 2 acres in size. So these are a little bit larger lots than some other subdivisions in town. And the future land use does allow for that neighborhood residential as well. Another note of why this one's a little different than the other ones we've looked at recently, it is just on a residential street, kind of tucked away. They have access to Mount Rushmore Road, Catron, and 5th Street to get around town. It's not on a collector as the other ones that we looked at recently. Sorry, the site plan has been scanned a couple times, so it's not the best quality, but you can see here, they've set the garage back on that flat area to be a little bit, aligned with the house, slightly behind it. They also have been proposing landscaping along the sides of the proposed detached garage in order to, screen from the street and the adjacent properties, which is one of the things that we look for in order to mitigate the impacts of a garage that's not placed behind the primary structure. So I'll just note the sizes of everything here so you can understand how it triggered the oversized garage requirement. So the oversized garage requirement, it's either 30% of the footprint of the single-family residence or 1,500 square feet, whichever is greater. The footprint of the residence is 2,829 square feet. So that one is 30% of that's only 848. So we go with the 1,500 square foot requirement. The existing garage is 1,358, and then the proposed is 1,344. So it goes over by about 1,202 square feet. And I'll note this hatched area is actually, it was a vacated access easement. There is an access easement here between the property to the east and this property, and that accesses the house to the north. So the structure itself is 24 wide by 56 in length. The materials, and I'll speak to the materials a little bit because the elevations don't fully show everything that they have committed to doing, and I'll show you what the house looks like as well after this. But they're proposing to match the same white color as the house. The house is stucco. They are doing metal, so that's the only difference in materials for this building. The same garage doors will be installed. The trim will match. The same roof pitch has been added, and that's one of the reasons for the request for the exception of the height. Same roof, metal material and color. And then they do have rock. Actually, I'll just kind of skip to that picture so you can see rock. So the rock will match, the roof will match, the trim, everything. It's just the difference in materials is the stucco versus the metal. And they also noted even the proportion of the rock, the 4 foot of rock here would be the same on the garage versus the house. Plus that landscaping will be along this kind of more blank sides of the structures. The garage door will be prominent. It is a larger garage door to accommodate for larger personal vehicles, to be able to get in and out of there. And then again, the pitch was matched of the house, so that added a little bit of height. That average height is 21 feet. For detached accessory structures for residential purposes is 15, and so they're asking for a 6-foot increase to that average height. As I noted before, this area that they're proposing to locate it in is at a lower elevation than the house. For the most part, the houses that are immediately surrounding this property are 2 stories. So the garage itself will not be more prominent than the primary structure or the adjacent structures. So this is looking north, right? And they did meet their notice requirements. And I kind of wanted to just go around the neighborhood to show you how it's slightly lower, the visibility and that sort of a thing. So the garage will be set back kind of in line here. It is 30 feet to the road, so it's a little farther than required, than that 25-foot setback. And then landscaping along this side where it would be, this is looking kind of northeast. Again, the garage would be in here. This is looking again directly at the house. You can see that higher elevation and how it continues to go up the further west you go on Enchanted Pines. And again, the homes up here are at a much higher elevation. This is looking east down Enchanted Pines. So it would be somewhat in line with this residence as well, but again, less prominent in the height. This is from where the garage would actually sit, looking across the street to the southeast and the the southwest. You'll notice a lot of the houses in this neighborhood do have large garages, more than 2 stalls. And one more shot just to get that idea of where it would sit in relation to the other properties. So staff is recommending approval on this one. Again, how I noted is a bit different than some of the other ones that we've presented recently. I will note that the recommendation of approval includes the approval of the exception to the height to increase it to that average of 21 feet. Prior to final building inspection, they would need to provide that landscaping that is provided in their site plan. And then the last stipulation that allows for the size of the garage also includes that they need to meet the material requirements and the color and everything. And they did provide a little late, I got these this morning. They did send them last night, but I didn't get them till this morning. Some nicer, if we can get the projector real quick, just to show a more residential look on the garage itself. So I'll just quickly show those. So the plantings would be a little smaller. They did note they're looking at juniper. They have juniper on the property already for some of their screening purposes. This shows a little bit. They don't match exactly the color scheme. They would have to match the color scheme, but this does show a little bit more residential character. So with that, the applicant's agent is in the audience if you guys have any questions, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. We do have a few speaker request forms on this item.
Mr. Chair, if I
Vicki?
might, if we could get if you go back to the last one that you just had up, Jessica, you can see that there is significant slope on this property, and where the sign is located, right slightly behind it is where the garage is going to go. Obviously, they'll be leveling off that piece of the property in order for the garage to be constructed. While it's not mentioned in Jessica's presentation, as a part of that building permit for the oversized garage, an erosion and sediment control plan and drainage plan to ensure that this does not negatively impact the property directly adjacent would need to be submitted with that application. Thank you.
Good to note. Gary Sabers, if you'd like to address the commission.
I'm Gary Sabers. I just am representing Daryl, the owner. So if you have any questions or anything like that, he does have, as you can see, a very, very nice property. And he does not want to disturb the neighborhood or anything like that. But as things change, you know, from years and years past, I mean, we are more, I don't want to, mobile. There's a lot of, for better word, toys that, that, you know, a lot of people have. Motorhomes, fifth wheels, RVs, side-by-sides, and that's what Daryl is planning to use this for, you know. And personally, I live on the west side of Rapid, and I know when we built our home, that was 30 years ago, I had to do the same thing, go through to get a variance to get a bigger garage, because I didn't want my stuff sitting outside, and most people don't. And, you know, that disrupts the neighborhood and everything that way. So, you know, I think, and I know, speaking for Daryl, the last thing he wants to do is, deteriorate from the property. I mean, it's a very, very elegant, very nice neighborhood, and they want to enhance that. And I feel with what they've put together, it'll do that. And it's a maintenance-free. There's, you know, you can put all kinds of stipulations and put wood, you can do this, do that, and with that comes a lot of maintenance. And if they don't maintain it, that almost looks worse than if they did just, you know, so this thing is about as maintenance-free, and with the finishes that they're using, you really won't have to touch it. It's gonna look great, and it'll look great for years and years and years to come. Any questions?
Might call you back up if something comes
Okay.
up, but I'll just keep your name at hand. Brad Beer.
I'm the representative for Morton Buildings. You know, I'm the proposed builder on the project. You know, just the reputation that Morton has, you know, for building quality. You know, the house does have a steel roof on it. You know, one of the only houses in that area that does have steel on the roof. You know, the steel exterior, you know, we proposed to put on the sidewalls will match the color perfectly. You know, Daryl, like Gary said, Daryl wants it to look nice. He will go through and put the flagpole and the shrubbery and stuff, the concrete to look nice. Just want you to consider that.
Thank you. Gerald Butts.
No real questions, thank you.
Okay. All right. Eric Hikus.
Thank you, Jessica, for the thorough presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Out of my own curiosity, is there a pedestrian connection between the garage and the house, or do they go out to the right away and then back to the house?
Yes, thank you for asking that. They do. There's a sidewalk present, so they would be able to get from each driveway through the sidewalk.
In the right away?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Vince.
Thank you, Chair. Jessica, can I see that picture of the artist representation of what it's going to look like with?
You'd like the updated one?
Right, the updated one, because what I wanted to make sure because now you're going to have to access the garage from the street, and I wanted to be sure of that, because I think Eric just cleared up my other question about the walkway. There, I'm sorry, that was it, I think. Okay, so this driveway is going to extend all the way to that, over the sidewalk into the street, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just
there's-
needed to clear that up for my mind. Thank you.
Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was my question about the access to the new garage. This is a really nice area, and I'm sure that if there's no objection from the neighbor just to the right there, you know, I think they should like it to look nice, and I know they will make it look real nice up there. So I just thought I'd double check with sidewalk, and so that was my question. Or the driveway, I mean, sorry.
Haven?
Thank you. That was kind of my observation too, whether there were two properties here that seemed to be affected by it substantially, and possibly even the ones across the street. And apparently there's been no comments from any of the neighbors regarding this project.
I've talked to one of the neighbors, and they noted that they weren't going to come speak today, likely. And I know that the applicant has talked to a few of the adjacent neighbors that were okay, not knowing exact locations of those. I know one across the street, but I don't know. I think the other one was down the street. I did note to the applicant to talk to the one that's right here, adjacent to them, and I haven't heard anything particular about that property.
Because this photo, I think, really shows it. This will now kind of appear to be a standalone building on its own lot. I mean, it seems like the way the land lays there, it's like there's nothing more than this double garage on this particular lot, and you know, I think from a visual standpoint that certainly makes a difference, I guess, but that's the way I guess it would be.
Correct. There's not another location that reasonably could locate the garage at this point. And there also note there's a slope on the north side to the rear of the house that has a lot of natural vegetation that I don't think that they would want to remove in order to grade and put a garage in the rear at that point. And there's also a residence that's right behind them, so they would be impacted by that as well. So this was the least impactful location. It still does have visual impacts from the street, which is why we asked them to include the landscaping and make sure that it's set back.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Vicki?
One of the reasons why we want the siding and building materials and color scheme to match that of the home on all of our oversized garages when they're detached is that it does show the neighborhood that it is a part of that larger lot and brings in that character of neighborhood where we have single-family homes and accessory structures. If this weren't oversized, they could make it different, and it would look more like a standalone garage on a separate lot. But I think with the design features that we've seen today, and we've seen some beautiful pictures of the existing home, someone driving down the street, I think, will clearly see that this garage matches the home and is a part of it.
And lastly, could you show what the visual barrier that is proposed?
So, one second, let me find a picture of. So I believe they're using the same kind of landscaping as here. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see on the. Yeah. And it would be, oops, wrong way. Bear with me. So the full line of shrubbery along the full side of the building. Apologize, we don't have a better visual. The renderings show smaller, but I think they were intending to do juniper.
All right, anything else from the commission on this one?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay,
With stipulations.
okay. Is there a second to Vince's motion to approve with stipulations? Mike Gallagher seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Karen?
Sorry, thanks, Mr. Chair. This adds the stipulation about the drainage, because I think that's important, right, for this property.
I think that would be required anyways, but
One of the
Vicki?
advisories is that they have to secure a building permit for it, and as a part of the building permit, they have to address those issues.
Okay, so it doesn't need to be a stipulation.
You could request it, but it,
That's all right. I just want to make sure that it was included in this
Sure.
property. Okay, thanks.
All right, any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8.
Apologize, I don't know why this is not pulling up. There we go. Thanks, Kip. Mike Dugan with Finance. Today, we're going to discuss the creation of, or 2 new applications for tax increment financing. The first project is the Rapid City Destination District, which is Liberty Land USA. And the details behind this project is a historic theme interactive attraction, so a large scale, upscale amusement park. There'll be components of this project will also be lifestyle center with retail, dining, entertainment uses, lodging, and conference facilities. There'll be a large housing development and community serving retail development with this development. So the proposed will have approximately 65,000 square feet dedicated to entertainment venues, 25,000 square feet of retail, 20,000 square feet of dining, just under 900 proposed parking spots. So the actual amusement park, the entertainment and commercial zone of this project is approximately 38.61 acres that will be developed. So there is an additional, on an upcoming slide, you'll see just under 35 acres available for future expansion of the entertainment zone. So they can initially, as you know, if the project takes off, double the size of this, the entertainment, the amusement park portion. The residential development will be 130 acres. So this TIF is projected to be classified as an economic development. It'll add employment opportunities, increase in property tax and sales tax revenue. So the TIF request is for a holder just over $125 million. Their capital costs are just over $14 million. Of that $125 million, the financing costs are estimated of just over $54 million for this project. That's at a 7.5% fixed interest rate. So there's a portion where the city is going to handle some of the public infrastructure. So those financing costs are a total of the city would occur and the applicant as well. And then part of this TIF request is the city administration fee of $25,000 and the county administration fee of $15,000. The discretionary costs and grants, what we'll talk about in more detail in this presentation, are just over $46 million. Land purchase, just under $7 million, and then a contingency of $3 million, make up that total of $125 million. So this is the proposed boundary. So there are developed properties within this boundary. The development doesn't, the proposed development doesn't rely on those developed properties. This makes it contiguous per statute that there is property down in here that the applicant owns that won't be developed with this initial construction phase. It's for future development. So there's an opportunity right here for more increment generated down the road as the project was to move forward. This is the parcel that will be the commercial and entertainment zone. So this half close to the proposed future 143rd Avenue would run through here. This would be the commercial and entertainment zone. This would be the resort village zone, which would have mixed use as far as commercial retail, proposed multifamily development, a market square that would be for public use that would kind of mirror the idea of the downtown market square, and then opportunity up here for single family development for sale. The major street plan, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail, but as far as the project components of this as the public infrastructure, the city would be responsible of putting in Tisch Avenue. Currently Tisch Boulevard, I apologize. Currently Tisch Boulevard ends at the fire station, and then it runs, it's just a dirt gravel road that runs by a business through there. So in the initial application that the developer had submitted, this was going to stay undeveloped. They would be required, as development was to happen in the residential, to put in this section of North La Crosse. So internally, staff met regarding this application, and the recommendation was, so North La Crosse ends right here. This this parcel right here is not owned by the applicant. It's part of the county, and it's not part of the boundary. So there's about 1,000 feet section of North La Crosse that wouldn't be put in. So there'd be a gap for the foreseeable future until this parcel was developed. So the recommendation was that the North La Crosse, the requirement is moved down 5 years down the road to put in Tisch Boulevard. That would help traffic coming from East North Street accessing Liberty Land. So another component of this would be, there's a traffic study that's going to be completed very shortly in the near future of this section right here of Seeger, changing that from 3 to 5 lanes. And that traffic study would be the recommendation would be based upon, you know, this development up here, how much traffic impact that'll be with this residential development in the future. This is a breakdown of the construction costs. Those top parts, the extension of Tisch Boulevard, it says or North La Crosse Street. The Tisch Boulevard is estimated to come in at about 4.1 million to put that in. So there would be about 800,000 left over that could go forward in the future of putting in to the start of North La Crosse Street. The downstream sewer connection, widening of North 143rd north of Seeger, the widening of Seeger from 3 to 5 lanes would all be the city responsibility. The city would be reimbursed for those project costs through this TID. It is budgeted in here. The city would receive 13.4% of that increment that's generated as development occurs. The applicant is responsible for the improvements to the entertainment zone, reimbursed through this TIF, and then the TIF grant funds, contingency acquisition, and the administration fees for that to get to the total of that 125 million. So the city's responsibilities, we talked about Tisch Boulevard. Future would be the responsibility to put in North La Crosse Street, the downstream sewer, sanitary sewer connection. So once again, the city would be reimbursed for these with those increments that's generated from this project. So kind of further detail of the city's responsibility. Once again, here's the city fire station. Tisch Boulevard ends right here. We putting in this section of Tisch Boulevard so you could access it through Seeger to get to the commercial entertainment zone or the future resort village zone. Here highlighted in green, this is a section of 143rd that's currently not constructed. That is a major component of this project, and that will be a part of a separate TID request that we will be reviewing next. Will be the requirement of that TID district to put in 143rd. And as you can see kind of here in kind of more in detail, North La Crosse ends right here. This section of North La Crosse would be required to be put in with this development. It's going to be recommended to move that down the road. The city will look at the increment generated from this in approximately 3 to 4 years if this project was to move forward. So payment from North La Crosse, that section could either come from an amendment from this district if this district is overperforming, or if these undeveloped areas to this section and these two parcels down here were developed, create more increment, the city could bring this back in a handful of years down the road to amend that to have dedicate funds to put in that section at North La Crosse. And so part of the TIF that we'll discuss next requirement, the 143rd, and then stoplights here at the intersection of Seeger and 143rd, stoplights here at the intersection of East Mall Drive and 143rd. The commercial entertainment zone, a large portion of this TID request is the discretionary costs and grants to put in that commercial entertainment zone. We'll talk about how that will look like as far as certification. These funds can go towards the amenities resort zone. There's plans for, the Market Square that would be public benefit, residential serving like a clubhouse, pool. The plans are for walking paths. And this development, the theme of it is Americana, USA, Mount Rushmore, City of Presidents. The residential development, the resort zone development, and the commercial entertainment zone will all be one theme. The feel is, you're leaving one to go to another, one section, leave to another section, and not really know. It's all going to match within there. The development is going to be the residential side unique to Rapid City. It'll be a development we have not seen before, with the walking paths, more wide open spaces, larger lots. This is the up close visual of the commercial entertainment zone, just over 38 acres. The water main that we part of, those discretionary costs and grants to put that water main in, the proposed sanitary sewer. So parking would run along the outskirts. There'd be what's known as the spine, the walking path that would kind of encompass the whole development within the middle here. So once again, no TIF funds can be used to construct the residential structures. The residential is about 130 acres. So it's going to be a mix of single-family development, multifamily, rental properties, potentially vacation properties, commercial retail development within this residential development, walkways, open space, larger lots. Once again, it'll be unique. The theme will match the commercial entertainment zone, so we'll have the flow and the feel of one giant, development. The TIF boundary, the estimated base value of this is going to be just over $8 million. There is some developed parcels within this district to make it contiguous. There are large sections or parcels of property that's undeveloped that's owned by the applicant. So the projected tax increment generated over 20 years is approximately 125 million, which matches the 20-year allowable payout. That's a very conservative estimate because there is room for future development on undeveloped land that could be constructed as the project is to gain popularity. That as those are developed, the entertainment zone could almost double in size. This would pay off at a much quicker rate. So I do want to note with this that the developed parcels, the commercial entertainment zone, and the undeveloped for the residential and the resort zone village, those currently have a value of just approximately $306,000. They're undeveloped. It's cows out there, hayland. That's how it sits right now. That $585 million estimated value of that boundary, that's all project driven. So the property taxes generated off this development for Liberty Land is going to pay for the TIF. It's not relying on any other developed properties. They are within there to make it continuous, but this property is generating the increment needed to pay for itself. So it's a big project. It's in North Rapid. With the project of this size and caliber happening out there, the idea is it will spur new future development of outside entities coming in to kind of build around the other vacant parcels. There's a large amount of vacant property that's out there that could be developed in the future. So the need for TIF financing, the scope of this project is large with the elements that are proposed within it. There's quite a bit of public infrastructure that is needed with the extension of roads and new roads being put in, traffic signals, that it would be difficult to obtain bank financing for this request. So they need a TIF, a partner with this, the city helping, putting in the public, the infrastructure, and the TIF to put in, to help spur the development, to put all these things that are needed for these outside entities that they're working on bringing into the commercial entertainment zone, to get everything set up for them to come. And there is a developer, he's based out of Chicago, vast experience of large developments. He spends a lot of time on the road. He's going all across the country working with large entities that would be new not only to Rapid City but the region, to be a part of this development. There is a lot of excitement with this. As far as them moving here, they're waiting for a big part of it to make sure there's community buy-in, these outside entities. The Planning Commission has the support from the Planning Commission, support from City Council, support from the community. And a big part of that would be this TIF application being approved would go a long way to bring in these entities to start building within this development. The sources and uses, this initial construction is estimated at approximately $171 million, with $125 million of that coming from the grant. The additional sources would be from developer self-financing, and then the uses would be to put in all the elements needed to put the infrastructure and everything in place for these outside entities to come in and be a part of this project. The pro forma, so as you can see here, 2027 through 2030 would be the major development years, the major amount of growth projected as construction progresses. 2031, it's expected that all components of this project plan are implemented into place, everything's developed, and now it's anticipating a 3% annual appreciation rate, as you can see through here, on the development within the boundary to get to the $585 million estimated value at year 2045. This is the projected tax increment income as development progresses throughout the years to get to the $125 million. So this is projected to be at a 20-year payout with this conservative approach. Amortization, as it shows here, just pay off in 2045. If those future parcels were to develop, this will pay off at a quicker rate. Certification, so this will have a multi-phase certification component to it. So as development progresses, as entities become part of this project, development around those entities progresses, we'll phase it by these as development happens. So the developer will submit a formal request for certification, all of the cost invoices associated with the development, the temporary certificate of occupancy or comparable proof of completion. So this is going to be heavily monitored on the city part, as far as heavily tracking that it will only be certified and increment funds released as development occurs. So we will track that this will be heavily tracked with inspections, invoices, those certificate of occupancies. So, and that's also going to be written in a developer's agreement. The city will receive the 13.4% of those increment funds. Developer will receive the remaining 86.8% in increment to repay back the TIF loan. The overall site plan, as you can see here, commercial entertainment zone, the resort zone with the future residential development. Down in here, there is room for future development, and then also future development here for the commercial and entertainment zone. Just a few pictures of how it sits now. This would be, this is the intersection of the proposed for future 143rd Avenue and Seeger. This would be looking out on Liberty Land. This is looking straight of 143rd that would be proposed in a separate TIF to put that in. Can't really see, I apologize, but here is the fire station. This is Tisch Boulevard. Tisch Boulevard ends right about here. That would be the proposed with this to put that into Seeger Drive. In this last picture here, this is where North La Crosse ends. So this would be looking out on the future Liberty Land and the residential development. Just some artist renderings proposed of what this project could look like. Large portion of it, so it's not seasonal. This can be open all year long. There's a large indoor proponent of these given, the climate and the seasons of Rapid City. So a large portion of this will be indoors and can be open all year round. Development schedule. So the process, trying to get all these approvals, the TIF application process in 2025. If this was to move forward, there is I think an opportunity they could start construction, at least with the grading and dirt work this fall to kind of speed up that. But I think maybe spring could be more realistic. But so have this component of Liberty Land and the residential development, built out through 2028 through 30. And I just want to kind of end the presentation on a few slides. I want to talk about the current tourism numbers for Rapid City as of 2024. But I also want to touch briefly on the state data for tax increment financing districts. So Visit Rapid City had helped me out with some of these numbers. So in 2024, there was $504 million in visitor spending. Tourism alone accounted for just over 7,600 jobs. And tourism accumulated about $53.7 million in state taxes. Rapid City visitor spending has been a steady increase, even when the COVID years. Rapid has continued to have tourism come in. This would be a large component of adding to those dollars to those tourism numbers with this project. Rapid City visitor volume, so it's been steady of just under 4 million for the last few years. It's unknown how many of these 4 million spend 2, 3, 4 days in Rapid. So, I mean, with this project, not only would it capture new visitors to Rapid City year-round, not just 4 to 6 months of the year of tourism season, but it's getting these existing visitors to Rapid City to stay an extra day or two, and that not only benefits the Liberty Land project, that benefits every business in Rapid City. They're going to need a place to stay. They're going to need a place to eat, have a drink, get their hair cut, shop. So this would be a large component to further strengthen Rapid City's tourism numbers. These last few slides are just about the current tax increment financing numbers throughout the state. So since inception of tax increment financing in 1978, there's been a total of 487 TIF districts created. Currently, as of 2024, there's 261 active TIF districts throughout the state. In 2024, Rapid City was 16 of those 261. So this is a widely used tool to spur private development, provide private infrastructure throughout the state. The top 10 counties throughout the state that with active TIF districts, so you can see here's Pennington County, Rapid City, and the county does have 3 of those districts in 24. As far as the numbers, you can see Brown does a large amount of local districts where we try to keep that as minimal as possible in Pennington County. So this was the 2024 active TIDs by city and county. So in 2024, there was 75 cities and counties that had at least one active tax increment financing district. And I highlighted in yellow the ones with over 10. So as you can see, Aberdeen has the most with 26 in their population. Rapid with 16, Watertown, Mitchell, Sturgis, and Sioux Falls with 13, and Yankton with 11. And this is kind of a neat slide. This is the assessed value currently throughout the state of these tax increment districts. So this is a huge tool to promote growth. In South Dakota, we're kind of limited on tools to promote growth. And TIF, if it's not the best tool we can use. It's one of the tools that we can use to promote growth. So these are just kind of some projects that are throughout the state that are because of tax increment financing that, that spur private development. This one in Clark County was for a cheese plant. In Chamberlain for retail shopping. Hamlin County, another processing plant to provide jobs, for the community. Brown County, once again, to spur private development of a new beef packing plant for employment opportunities. Infrastructure, put infrastructure in place, indoor activity center, MT. Spearfish, public infrastructure, and to new golf course. And so the types of structuring that Rapid uses is not unique to the rest of the state. Some of these were grants to put in these recreational, the shopping components of these TIFs. The active TIF districts, so we have 18 as of 2025, so we had those 16 active in 2024. There's 2 added in May of this year. There's the breakdown of the 18 districts of the classifications. So currently we're at just under 1.6% of our total valuation. Once again, that's based off the base valuation of the property. That's not project costs that go towards this. It's just how's the property assessed right now. So this would push it up to about 1.66, and we are allowed a maximum of 10%. So there's about $900 million of assessed valuation that the city would still have room for future TIFs. So that's more than adequate than probably we would ever approve or see. So the staff recommendation is to recommend approval for the Planning Commission to recommend approval of both the district and the project plan on to City Council. There are representatives for the applicant in the audience, and I will stand for any questions.
Thanks, Mike. We do have a couple, at least one speaker request on this one. Tom Johnson.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Tom Johnson, CEO and President of Elevate Rapid City. We're the economic development organization for the region. I want to speak in favor of this TIF and also the subsequent TIF on Project Catalyst, if I could, right now. There's a couple things that are hurting us right now in economic development as we try to recruit projects and workforce. One is we have the lowest unemployment rate in the entire country. We're at 1.8%. We've been the lowest in the entire nation for the last 6 months, which means we're trying to compete with the Fort Collinses, the Fargos, the Bismarcks, the Sioux Falls, the Billings, to try to recruit workers. And when I'm on the phone with those workers that are trying to come here, they look at our amenities and our built environment and they say it's not good enough. I also was on the phone last week with the CEO that I've been trying to work with for the last 3 years of a major publicly traded company to do a major expansion in Rapid City, which would be entertainment and retail. And he will not pull the trigger because he doesn't feel like our built environment and our investment, our amenities are up to standard. When I told him this was happening, he said, if this does happen, I think I would pull the trigger. So we continue to be told that we don't have enough built environment amenities, even though we have world-class outdoor recreation, and we're struggling to get workers. This helps us solve this. So not only is it a tourist draw and it brings in more taxes, it'll help us draw workers here because these millennials and Gen Zers will see that our built environment has been invested in to the tune of other areas that we compete against. So we're very much in favor of this TIF and the TIF that you'll be discussing later, Project Catalyst. And so I just want to say thank you for considering this, and we're definitely in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Vince.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, Tom, if I could ask you a follow-up to what you just said. So I'm trying to figure out, when it comes to workforce housing, is there anything being done to improve on the availability of housing for potential workers coming from out of city, out of state, out of town?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vidal, yes. Since the pandemic, I would say pre-pandemic, we had about 700 units on the market. This would be sort of around right before 2020 started, pandemic. Right now, we only have about 400 on the market. So our housing has been sucked up. You've seen the price go pre-pandemic from an average list price of about 240 to now we're about 360 to 370. So as that supply has decreased, the price has gone up. We still have not had the investment that we need in housing, and of which this project also helps us there. I appreciate you pointing that out. We're a little bit overbuilt in multifamily, I'm not gonna lie. We're probably 20% overbuilt in multifamily. I think that was because our development community was reacting to the market with respect to the base. Most of that base housing likes to see multifamily rentals. So we overbuilt on that. Again, we're glad that's the case because it's reacting to the market. We're still far behind on single family. I know this project does put single family into the market, and so I think it would help with that as well. So we are still behind in housing, even though you're hearing across the country right now that there's going to be a housing plunge. We're not in that environment.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a project that I think is going to be such benefit to the community, that people that live here, our residents, as well as the tourism that comes through. It's so exciting to see something new like this, and what an economic development tool that we have to be able to do this. Not every city has that opportunity. It's just exciting to see what's going to happen up there. I mean, you know, if you want to take your kids to a place to play and to be entertained, there's not a lot of those things other than the downtown square to do that. And I think this is just going to be, I think it's just going to be awesome when it's completed. So I support this, and I don't have any major questions of how the TIF is working and how it's going to be paid back. Once it's paid back, look at all the taxes that will roll in that I think will be a benefit to the community and the people that own houses, and hopefully get our local taxes down a little bit, you know, property taxes. But I think this is going to be a tremendous benefit, so I'm supportive of it.
Mike Kwasny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I likewise like the project. I'm a little concerned about a couple things on this. Tisch Boulevard, I understand the need to extend that. That's obviously got to be done. I struggle with La Crosse, not getting that all the way through, especially once there is residential there. We got a lot of residents, and we're going to force them through a commercial, hopefully a really busy area, which makes no sense to me. I think that somehow we need to figure out how to make sure that La Crosse Street is done before residential is there, or during the process of residential, to allow the residents to have travel not going around it and in through the commercial. I just really struggle with that. And if it's a problem with the vacant property, is there a way to, at the point where they do something, that they are charged to tie in? That is something that I think could be done to alleviate if we're concerned about that part. I don't know. I have one other question, so if we could answer those, then go from here.
If I could have Director Fisher help with the North La Crosse question.
Yeah, Vicki.
So as a part of the TIF proposal, there are infrastructure improvements that are being included. However, when they come in to subdivide the property and bring forward the individual projects, there will be infrastructure requirements specific to each phase of that. As an example, if they are bringing in residential lots adjacent to La Crosse Street, it would require that there be an improvement of that street as it abuts the property. The hindrance in including that in the TIF proposal is that there is a big chunk of La Crosse Street to the south that is outside of this property owner's purview and outside the city limits. So the TIF dollars can't be spent in that area anyway. As we see this project mature and we see some of that infill development, I think Mike did a great job showing you areas that are yet to be developed within this TIF boundary. there will be additional discussions for how do we get this street constructed, and maybe it will include having to annex in the property that does create the void and working with that property owner to secure that improvement. But knowing that while it isn't earmarked as a part of the TIF, it still will be addressed as a part of the plating.
I guess what I hear is that there's no guarantee that once the residential goes in, that there's going to be a road on La Crosse, which again I will struggle with because we need the access. I really struggle with that. On East North Street, it stops and it goes to Tisch, and we have several places that we do this. Is there any way that could just change to East North Street and have it continue on through? Or is that something that is personal and we can't change the name?
We'd probably have some property owners that would be pretty upset with us on all those commercial sites if we started changing that name. But what I will say is, in retrospect to that and the previous comment that you made, there will be a traffic impact study that truly assesses all of the land uses. And if the traffic engineers determine that there are required street connections in order for this to successfully bring people in, out, and through this project, then we will work through those as a part of the plating of the project. We can look at the street name change, but as you know, if you want to see this room packed with individuals, change an existing street name. But I appreciate that point.
Well, I hope that we can look at, for the future, I'm reminded, and I've said it at many of these meetings, Sheridan Lake Road area and the roads that we have in that area are a bad problem. And I think as a city, we need to make sure we don't have that problem continuing. And this is similar in that respect.
All right, thanks, Mike. We're going to take a speaker request from Jason Solomon, Mayor Jason Solomon. But you have to identify yourself.
Yes, Jason Solomon, City of Rapid City. I live and work here. And briefly, I'm talking on this and the following item. Unfortunately, I have to leave here shortly for a meeting, but I wanted, first of all, just to give, my support for both this project and the subsequent one. I think these could be real game changers for Rapid City and be a big win overall. When I look at TIFs, one of the things I look at is, does it provide enough of a public benefit? So over the years, there have been things I haven't supported because even though they're great ideas, I don't think they have enough of a public benefit, whether that's infrastructure improvements or economic development. This Liberty Land project, it's a big vision. Not everybody can see it, and but I do think it is very worthwhile to our city. I think future generations will look at this as being one of the more transformative projects in Rapid City's history. That's what we get to be a part of. Obviously, in terms of the revenue of the city, we are very grateful to have projects like this happen. This is rare. This doesn't happen very often. And for me, it's a question of how can we make this happen? And the subsequent TIF that you'll consider, which is adjacent to this with the sports complex, is, Mike will do a good job outlining that. But that sports complex too will draw sports tourism year round. We don't just want to be a summer season industry. We want to have folks visiting year round. That helps all of our residents. It improves our quality of life, adds to our revenue so that we can continue to keep up with the demands of the city. I will say, one of the challenges that we have is we have very few economic development tools, so this is what we have. So we have to work within the confines of what we have in accordance to state law, which is what we are presenting with you today. Nothing we're presenting you today is outside of that. Now, sometimes in Rapid City, we have to be creative, but as Mike has expressed, many of our projects that we've had right now are one of many throughout South Dakota. So this is a tremendous opportunity for our community. I just want to make sure I'm on record stating I fully support Liberty Land and this project. I think the housing development, the resort village itself is going to be really unique. Some of the ideas they have are going to be outstanding. Right adjacent to it, to have the sports complex as part of that, and with options for future opportunities that we don't know. On number 9, you were just considering the district. It won't have the plan yet, but we do need to establish that district soon. And then later on, we'll have a TIF plan that would be presented before you. So Mike Dugan from our office will do a good job sharing that with you. But I just wanted to make sure that I voiced my support for both of these projects, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Haven.
Thank you. I just had a couple of mundane questions. There was some of the costs allocated to land acquisition. Could you explain that part of the proposal?
Sure, it would be the Liberty Land USA acquiring land owned from the individuals, applicants. So that land is currently being appraised. So Liberty Land would buy that from the individual applicants, become Liberty Land as part of the project. And one of the stipulations is, as far as with the appraisal, is it can only be, that land purchase can only be what it's appraised for to be included within their development.
And will all of the property within this district remain on the tax rolls?
As it sits currently, it will, at the value today. If this was to go forward, once the creation of the district, if it was to be approved, I would work with the state and the county. That base valuation would be assessed and certified by the state. Then anything on top of that, the increment, the city and the county would not. The school district as an economic TIF will be made whole statewide, but the gains on the value, the city and the county would realize that huge future gain once this pays in full, but would the gain as it sits, as this is still, in the repayment stage, wouldn't be received.
So my question though was, will the property remain on the tax rolls? I guess really what I was getting at, will some of this property be owned by the city, or is it all private development?
This is all private development.
Eric Heikes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mike, for an excellent presentation. I want to echo a couple of comments. I really enjoyed Mike's comment about the transportation issue that we have, that challenge. I think we need a solution there. I also want to echo Tom Johnson's comments about our infrastructure, and if we're going to grow as a community, we have to keep up the infrastructure game. I also fully agree with the mayor's comments about this is one of our few economic development tools in the community, and I think we need to be using it. So I have a very simple question, and it might not be one that can be answered right off the cuff. It might be just what it is. Here it is. Is there enough TIF money to do this and the sports complex? Are these projects going to be competing? Does the well only have so much water, and then we have to decide, I guess?
No,
Okay.
these would be complementary. They're going to be two separate districts, two separate sources of repayment, two separate boundaries. They're going to complement each other. To take that, I guess, a step further is the sports complex they're going to rock and roll. The plans that is every weekend, all year long, every weekday, all year long, to have events. And so that would actually help Liberty Land, because, everybody's going out to the sports complex for these large events. What better to do once you're done with your sporting event than to walk across 143rd there and go to Liberty Land? So they would be complementary, not competing.
Sorry, I turned my mic off there. So, thank you. That's a good answer. Appreciate that. You have my support, and I'm also a little bit of a fan of kitsch, and this feels a little kitschy, and this is the right kind of kitsch too. I think from the renderings I see, I hope that the end product will closely resemble the artist's rendering as well, because it seemed like an attractive, compelling element for our community. Thanks.
All right, Annie Bashand.
I always find irony interesting. I had no idea, as somebody who works and spends majority of their time up in North Rapid, that this was going on today. Here's what occurs to me is that there's always kind of been two Rapid cities. You know, I'm 60 years old and there's always been two Rapid cities. And there's a Rapid City that is interested in transactional economics, and there's a Rapid City that's interested in relational economics. And obviously, as a nonprofit, our economics is about rematriation. It's about building relationships day in, day out, building the fabric, the threads of our community. Because in doing that, our youth have a better opportunity. The first thing I think about with this is, like, you know, the Lean family, they've been a great supporter in the community. I get all that. I get this very Western kind of pro-America dream, but we're also forgetting the deep culture that this creative community has benefited from. This community has benefited from Native Americans that have lived here way before any economic development was here. And I think it's unfortunate to put such a huge, huge impact in a community that is going to just significantly negatively impact a residential community in North Rapid that is just beginning to thrive. And I think it's also really unfortunate that there's not been an opportunity for the community to express how they feel about it, to even know what's going on. There were rumors about this going on. We were told that it wasn't going to happen. And so that's why I found it really interesting to happen to be here accidentally this morning to hear what's going on. I just offer this off from my heart, from a good place. I get people wanting economic development. I get all of that. I get the use of TIFs. I understand all that. We don't have enough affordable housing at all. And affordable housing is not $300,000. The traffic on North Rapid, if you spend any time up there, just if there's an event up at Ramkota, is awful. Awful. The folks that live up in that area, there's several areas up there that are predominantly natives that live up in those areas, live in the trailer areas up there. I can't imagine what's going to happen up there. And I just ask that we take simple citizens of the community that don't have big pocketbooks, don't have big voices, that we just take that into consideration, because otherwise we're really continuing to destroy the fabric of our community and the people that really put a lot of effort into it. I really appreciate it. I hope you take this from my good heart where it comes from. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to chime in since I've got an opening here, Mike.
Yep.
My ability to get into the weeds on these things is, I won't say unmatched, but pretty good. So having two developers on this and having two types of costs, you know, some are capital costs, some are the grant, certification seems like a challenge. On the capital side, my understanding is those costs have to be spent, put in place within 5 years, but it seems like they're out to 2031. Can you take me through that part?
Right, you are correct that all the even the discretionary costs and grants all have to be expended within 5 years. There is a provision with that if they're under contract with a portion of development before year 5, it can continue into year 6. So that's possible with that. I think what's spilling out there a little bit in that 2030, 2031 is the residential, the resort village. And there's probably a small portion of those costs that are actually within the discretionary costs and grants that will be dedicated to that, you know, putting in components of that. That's going to be developer financing, as you know, as far as their requirement for large portions of that. And I think the development side, the residential side, will spill into that 20 or 30 one. But by then, what is needed for the TIF side of it, those expenditures will be spent.
So if I'm reading this, the upfront costs that the city undertakes, those would be more on the immediate side, or those would be still sort of piecemealed over the 5 years?
The plan is to put those in right away.
Okay.
They're essential components not only to Liberty Land, they're essential components to the sports complex as well.
And that was my inclination, and I guess the reason why I'm asking and bringing it up. So, and I just want to say, I support this. This is big enough that the city council needs to make this decision. Bar none. That's why they recently make the big bucks. Sorry, Rod, but Pat. If the city's spending their money up front but only has rights to 13.4% of the proceeds, if there's any issue in the build out of this, because this is taking every bit of the 20 years, if there's any slowdown on the build out of this, the proceeds won't be there at the end. And I guess I would throw this to the council, that they may want to consider having the developers agreement such that the city is paid back for those early expenditures ahead of the grant portion that may come later. And I don't know how to word that. I don't have any suggestions on that, but this is going to be a complicated certification and developers agreement if approved, and it seems like there'd be some way to do that.
I totally understand what you're saying, and it makes sense. So
Then the second question was, this is just, I swear I've asked this before and forgotten the answer, but how does the interest get certified on both sides, city and private developer?
So typically, so the city will keep its own internal amortization as funds are spent. So we keep that. So I guess in a sense, we're the bank. So banking has their software that calculate that interest. Mm-hmm. So we calculate that expense. So we're allowed, up to X. If we were to reach X and anything above, we just won't collect any interest. On the developer side, we track interest annually. I reach out to either the bank directly or to the developers, and they have to reach out to their bank to get permission for me to have their year-end bank statements. So I track their principal and their interest payments, per the bank, their software, what the bank has on record. So then I also track their interest accumulation. So if they reach what's allocated in the project plan, and if the interest exceeds that, it's out of the developer's own pocket and their responsibility to make the bank whole.
Okay, and so there would have to be a loan in place. There is some note of self-funded portion. The grant portion has to be taken as a loan up front in order to have interest certified on it?
I think as it stands right now, this will be self-financed. So the developer would be the bank. I would track that as well. Developers definitely, their accounting, they're definitely going to track that. And we'll compare. But that would be, the city would also monitor that interest allocation. And we can track that certification that draws where that interest is at.
Okay. Well, it just seemed like it was kind of cloudy on how a rate would be established. There's the 7.5 max, but is there a rate under that is actually paid?
No, so that's the proposed interest rate, and that's actually the rate that we've been seeing through other applications that were approved, is what banks are offering, is that 7.5% right now.
Okay. Yeah, Haven asked about the property acquisition. That's good for me. Anything else from the commission?
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
you were right on your comment that typically the applicant will need to secure a loan to ensure that that TIF would pay off. In this case, the applicant can financially support that without having to secure the loan. And if you will allow me, I want to take you guys back to about 18 months ago when we sat in this room and we talked about the Rapid City Destination Zoning District. And we created this really great district of land uses and what would be permitted and what would be conditional. We created a unique parking and landscape plan just for this district. And the excitement that we all felt of the game changer this would be in North Rapid and for the community as a whole. We've all sat patiently, and behind the scenes, staff has continued to work with the property owner and those that are bringing forward the actual project itself, knowing that in time they would step up and make additional applications, but knowing all along progress was being made. This TIF is the biggest first step that they're taking in order to ensure that they fulfill that commitment when they got the support of the Planning Commission and the council on rezoning this to a unique zoning district. I want to thank Tom Johnson for being here today. I couldn't agree with him more with the statements that he made about some of the economic benefits of introducing a use like this into our community and the ripple effect that it will have. And I will share with you that as we've been out in the public visiting with our community on what they want to see in Rapid City as we're updating our comprehensive plan, it's these kinds of uses that we hear a lot about. They want things that will allow them to take their family and enjoy and not always have to go out into the hills or some other natural event. This is a way to keep our young people here. And it's a way to bring other industry supporting facilities to North Rapid that are going to want to be close to this area in order to provide additional housing and food opportunities for those that are participating in this event. So I hope we all get on board and can share the excitement that we shared 18 months ago. This is a big step forward on making this happen. Thank you.
All right, so item 8, we have the resolution to create a tax increment financing district and the resolution to adopt a project plan for the district. Is there Eric Hikas?
I'll make a motion to create a district and also support it.
Are you doing both the project plan and the district in
I
your
am.
motion?
Thank you, Eric.
All right.
Yep.
And with the stipulations listed?
With stipulations, sorry.
Okay.
Doing a terrible job on the motion here.
We're getting there. All right. Eric made the motion to approve the creation of the district and adopt the project plan for item number 8 with the stipulations, and Karen seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This next TIF application is for the Rapid City Catalyst District. As we spoke previously, a big component of this would be the new proposed indoor sports facility. This is just to set the district boundaries. The creation to the recommendation to create the project plan will come at a future date. That'll identify all the costs associated with the funding sources, and the projects identified will be in that project plan. This is just to set the district boundaries. So this will allow the city time, hopefully within the next 6 months by year end, to identify all the future improvement costs and the projected increment that'll come in with this in that project plan. So there's more components to this project than just the indoor sports facility. There is a large project with Black Hills Energy, the new power generation facility. So that the district boundaries, which I'll show here in upcoming slides, will be included in this boundary. The increment generated from the Black Hills Energy power generation facility in large part will go to repaying the improvements that will be done within these project boundaries. There is a second large private development that's kind of in the proposed stage that may or may not happen within the boundaries. If that does happen, then we can really lock down as far as the components, the improvements that will be made within these TIF boundaries. So they may likely include water, sewer, storm sewer. There's some public infrastructure components that need to be put in place for the Black Hills Energy Power Generation facilities. Those would be included within the project plan. There's some street construction, signalization, road configuration, for example, as we talked about in the previous TIF, 143rd, putting that in. That's a very critical component of both Liberty Land and the sports complex to have that road in between Mall Drive and Seeger Drive put in place. There would be signalization at Seeger and 143rd and Mall and 143rd that would be a part of the project plan components of this. So the recreational enhancements, as we talked about, the indoor sports facility. There's been some Vision Fund projects in the past that have had recommendations, this would be great for the community, but there's not funding for it. Those could be components of this project plan. And then, as we'll see in the upcoming slides, the downtown, the boundary stretches down to downtown Rapid City. If there is that second private development, there could be some major exciting improvements that could happen happen in downtown Rapid City as far as parking, recreational, street improvements, and there's a lot of components right now that are unknown, but are slowly coming into known. A big help has been Black Hills Energy in their a partnership as far as this increment. The reason being, usually pretty somewhat simplified to calculate increment for Liberty Land or another project as far as the property taxes, not in a power generation facility. So Black Hills Energy actually, without their help, this would have been impossible to calculate. There's a lot of components that they need to provide internally. I've worked with the state. It's intense. Black Hills Energy sat down with us and helped us through every step of the way to calculate how much increment's going to be generated from their project to help go towards these improvements, proposed improvements within this district. So included, as I spoke about, that power generation facility. The reason why it's important to set the district boundaries now, Black Hills Energy's just got their final approval that they needed to start construction, and they're going to start. They may have already started. So the district boundaries, the advantageous part to setting it now is we capture that base value before construction starts. Before that, the increment starts to build and as development goes. It's a large project. It's approximately $280 million investment. And not only is that helping with property taxes in Rapid City, I know the sales tax doesn't pay back a TIF, but another important element of this new power generation facility is going to create significant sales tax opportunity as well for Rapid City. So there is a potential second development. We're kind of waiting on word for that as we finalize the capital stack for the indoor sports facility. Then once we know yes or no on that second private development, we'll identify what projects we want to be included in the project plan, and that would come before you at a later date for you to look at to approve or deny. Once again, the Black Hills Energy has been a huge partner in helping us determine the increment for this, and without the construction of that facility, this indoor sports facility component of this project plan just isn't possible. So this is the boundary. It looks ugly. So there's components of this. It needs to be contiguous. So as right here, that's the sports complex, and all the more detailed slide upcoming. So here is the power generation facility's location. So these for sure have to connect in order to capture that increment gain off that. Up here in North Rapid as well, There's public improvements that need to be made to help out Black Hills Energy. So that'll be a component in that. That needs to be captured within the TIF boundary, that expense, or else it can't be, repaid with the increment. So the second piece of this boundary relies on the second private development that there's a potential to connect it to downtown Rapid City. So even though this district is large in size, the base value is relatively low at 40 million would be the anticipated base value certification. With this, the land is mostly, as you can see, undeveloped until you get down to downtown Rapid City. Downtown Rapid City is included. There's some major opportunities to really make significant and exciting improvements to downtown Rapid City. Recreational, public infrastructure. There's some ideas that have been floated around long before I worked for the city about how we can really make downtown Rapid City shine even more than it does. So that would be a component of the project plan as well. The district boundary, as I stated, it's large in size, but considering the size of this boundary, most of it is undeveloped, so that anticipated base certification would be just north of 40 million. This TIF would be anticipated to be classified as economic development, which would be further identified in the project plan that will come before you if this was to be approved at a later date. This will, with the indoor sports facility, for sure bring additional employment opportunities to Rapid City. So this district is the Catalyst District, as Mayor Solomon had spoken about in his press conference on Monday, announcing, the intentions of this new indoor sports facility. The Catalyst District. I mean, this, with leveraging the Black Hills Energy investment, that gives us the opportunity to make some major improvements to Rapid City, with the biggest one being the indoor sports facility. So that indoor sports facility, as Liberty Land, I know I kind of touched more heavily on bringing people into town or keeping those people that come to town maybe an extra day or two. The benefit to people who live there are here already. I mean, this sports facility is huge. Is anybody, with youth, families, that you got to travel to Sioux Falls, you got to travel to Billings, you got to travel to Casper for these major sporting events. Here you don't have to anymore, and what better place for an indoor sports facility next to Liberty Land? There's no community in the region that can match that. So another component of the indoor sports facility about this is tourism season, let's say on a perfect year, 6 months. This gives it the opportunity to extend that with the sports complex to 12 months. That'll keep people, coming to town, coming to Rapid City, coming to Liberty Land. That'll be open 12 months out of the year. And just like Liberty Land, it's not a self-benefiting project. People got to stay somewhere, eat somewhere, visit local businesses, enjoy the hills. It brings people to town, but it also gives us that live here, access to an outstanding facility. So I also want to touch on, this has been in the works, with the Sports Commission, for a couple years now, as far as the idea and the dream of the sports complex. There's been an incredible amount of behind the scenes work to get it to where it is today. I know there's representatives in the audience, as far as there's been early mornings, late nights, there's been weekends, hundreds of hours of getting this to where we are today, that this is moving away from a dream, and this is slowly becoming a reality. And there's been a lot of support as far as the entity involved to make this happen. This is the indoor sports facility site in this pink here. So this is Liberty Land, proposed site here, sports complex. So Pete Lean and Sons did, part of that mayor's press conference on Monday, donate 22.78 acres of land to the city in order to a spot to put up this sports facility. There's another important component as far as increment income coming in, is this parcel was actually a part of Liberty Land, you know, in their increment repayment. But we can't break up parcels per statute. It's got to be one whole parcel included in your TIF boundary. So what's an important part of the repayment for the city side of the sports complex and the potential or the potential improvements throughout the community within that boundary? It's anticipated this property here along East Mall Drive, once developed, will be very popular. So anything built upon that, if it's a hotel, a convention center, it could be anything put into there. That increment will belong to the city as far as repayment. So that'll help put in, you know, 143rd, that'll help with the signalization and the 2 spots that it's needed. And so the donation from Pete Lean and Sons was a huge component. I mean, to get land where in, you know, an existing infill is very, very expensive. And it just does not make, and you add that to the capital stack, it just does not make this indoor sports facility if you're adding a large investment to purchase the land. So this is a huge step in the right direction, having that land donation. I'll end with the typical last slide here of our active districts. So with that $40 million base value added to, and this 2.06% includes the Liberty Land base valuation on top of our existing. So we're still about $800 million we have up to $1 billion, which is 10% of our allowable valuation that we can use for the assessed valuation. So there's still plenty of room for rapid, for if the use of TIF to grow. So this would just put us north of 2%. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Anything from the commission? Karen?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think this TIF that's going to go forward, I think is something that is, again, an economic development tool that it's one thing that we have in this community that we use and we use well, I think. And I think this one tied with the one we previously, both of those just going to make a game changer for the city. I really do believe that. I think that this particular one looks so complicated because of the map, I think, but it is going to be a lot of work to do for the staff to do these, because you have to bring in the invoices and make sure everything works well. Between the two of them, I just have to commend you on the excellent job you did of the previous project plan. That is so comprehensive and it's got so many details in it. I'm just glad I don't work here and have to do that myself. You know, that is just awesome. And so I truly support this. I think it's important that we do create the boundaries so we have that base, because that's what helps that 10%. And if we want to do future TIFs in the near future, you need to have that base stay low like that, and it's going to make so much difference. So I just support this, and I just again, thank you for all your work that you did.
Thank you for those comments.
I neglected, there's a speaker request from D'Amico Rodriguez. I'm going to go to that. Oh.
Thank you, everybody. My name is D'Amico Rodriguez, and I'm the Executive Director of the Rapid City Sports Commission. And first, I want to commend Mike from City Finance. He's worked tirelessly on this, but also Vicky from the very onset of this idea has been a great partner, bringing people together. Obviously, Elevate, the mayor, a lot of support for this project. And the term that Daniel Ainsley used when we first started this conversation was transformational. So to echo Karen's thoughts, this is going to change the landscape of Rapid City. But what's unique about this project versus some other projects is our locals can use this. This is something this is standard across the United States. Monday through Thursday, locals get to use what we don't have currently, a community center. This now can suffice that, while also being an economic driver for the community. So obviously there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. The Rapid City Hotels have put forth an opportunity for an additional hotel tax. So this isn't a burden to get this across the finish line on the local taxpayers. So I say all of that to say we're as close as we have ever been. I have been very involved through Visit Rapid City as a volunteer, as a parent, as a coach, to get to this point for the past 15 years. This has been a vision, and now we're as close as we've ever been. So the support of this group, in addition to City Council, again, to be part of a transformational change for this community is exciting. And with that, I'll stand for any questions. But first, again, the city has been such a great partner. Obviously, Pete Lean and Sons being a great partner for this. It's huge for this community, and I look forward to watching this come to fruition moving forward.
Thank you. Oh, good call.
Yes.
Can
If we could
get
get
a
a-
motion to extend past 9 o'clock?
Motion to extend the meeting past 9 o'clock. Second.
All right, Vince made the motion, Eric seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're extended past 9. Sorry, a little procedural we have to do. Haven.
Obviously, the boundary is a little complicated here, and I think you did a pretty good job of explaining why we're approving the district without a plan. I think I understand that part of it. And in this property, this project, there will be some of the property that's taken off the tax rolls. I assume that the sports complex would continue to be owned by the city?
Mr. Chair? That is still under discussions. I'm sorry, Daniel Ainsley, Finance Director. Sorry. That is still under discussions as to who the ultimate owner would be. More than likely, it probably would be the city and operated through the Sports Commission, but that's something based on some of our other funding entities that are part of the capital stack that'll be determined in the next probably 3 to 6 months. That should be the only parcel, though, that would be taken off the tax rolls, would be that, which, Mike, I think that's a fairly low amount. Yeah. That's a fairly low total amount that would be taken off the tax rolls. All the rest would remain privately owned and would be expanded through this.
And just an observation, then obviously and I'm pretty familiar with the Black Hills Energy Project, and that is going forward, and that would create a pretty large increase in the taxes on that parcel. By creating the TIF, that increase in taxes does not flow to some of the entities that it would otherwise flow to, at least during the first 20 years. I'm thinking about the county, for example. I assume they're aware of this and haven't voiced any objection.
Mr. Chair, thank you for the comment. You are correct that any of the additional development that occurs in here, including the energy the plan, that in additional property tax that comes from that would initially go to pay off the various improvements that would be a part of this. It's important to note that the project plan itself will include some additional public utilities and infrastructure improvements that are necessary for the projects that are being completed along Deadwood Avenue, off of exit 55. Those are projects that are necessary for the developments that are occurring there. As far as the school district, they will be made whole through the state as a whole. The city we will not receive that property tax, but there will be other revenue streams that would more than make up the difference from that. The county will not receive their portion of the property tax until the TIF is paid off. The county does receive other taxes, though, and fees as well. Those will be coming as the community continues to grow. As there's no new user fees, as there's new vehicles that are purchased in the community, and as overall economic activity increases, the county's general revenue would increase as well.
You know, there's a lot of aspects of this property that it is huge, and I know the mayor has been vocal in the last couple of years about the Vision Fund and allocating that to infrastructure projects. And you know, I asked the question, but obviously it would appear that, you know, what's being done here with infrastructure projects probably far exceeds any possible disbursement out of the Vision Fund.
Mr. Chair.
Vicki?
I think that's an excellent comment, Haven, and you are correct. When you look at that property that's within the district along Deadwood Avenue, you can see that outside of that substation, we really don't have a lot of development there. And in part, it's because we don't have the water and the wastewater to stand up some of that commercial industrial use that would otherwise be supported. And with this boundary, and some of the reason why it meanders to the north up along Elma Street is we understand that there are some water and wastewater improvements that are needed that would not only open up the Deadwood Avenue area for development, but other areas even south of I-90. So while the Vision Fund will help with smaller projects, this one's a big lift where we're having to do reservoirs, lift stations, etc., in order to get utilities to an area that don't exist at this time. And Mr. Chair, if I might, Haven also made a comment as to is the county aware of it. If you recall, when we dissolved the TIF committee, we did so with the commitment that all these applications would be sent to the county commission and their comments would be included within our report. So yes, they are made aware of these even before you see them on the agenda.
All right, Eric Ikas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, echoing on Vicky's comment, there's a lot of gravity in these decisions. This is significant. I understand the role we're playing. It's also a great responsibility and a great honor to be up here making these decisions. This one makes me think of a few things. One, it reminds me of Steve Allender's passion for the Monument Arena and the economic engine that became in our community and is today. I see echoes of that energy that he brought and his passion for getting that project accomplished. I remember the Roger Brooks studies saying things like, if you don't get the locals there, then you won't get the tourists either, you know, and how we revitalized our downtown and built the square, those kind of things. Lastly, this is an exciting project. I can't see why we wouldn't do this, and I'm really excited for the sports commission and its dream as well. So this one has my support as well. And by no means am I lessening the gravity of what we're doing up here. This is significant, and I'm enjoying this. So this is exciting. And it's kind of like I have a dream. Get to see these things happening at this level is fantastic. So, yay.
Alicia?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate some of the comments from the other commissioners and community members. I just encourage some of the other ideas about connectivity. The dream of walkability between a sports complex across 143rd would be ideal. So I know that's not really our purview, but thinking about some, other connections to the comprehensive plan and other visions that Rapid City has. So how is this district its own district, but also connected to other goals within the city, and even what other community members shared about North Rapid and the communities and the residents that exist up there. And I hope this could be a huge benefit to them and not seen as a negative component to, you know, what's going on in North Rapid and the existing community up there. So just encourage, you know, the Monday through Thursday, like was mentioned. And I know in other cities, sometimes the recreation neighborhoods give a discount to neighbors who, you know, live in that direct region of the city. So that would be great going forward too, just thinking about the existing community and walkability, and yeah, feeling like the, you know, the build out is part of that dream and part of that vision. Thanks.
Pat Roseland?
I just want to expound a little bit on what Eric said about the gravity that you guys have here and profound, would say, decisions you make up here. And I've really been impressed, but as I said before, what you guys do and and the power that you guys have, the influence you guys have sitting on this board and commission. And I just, you know, I've been visiting with D'Amico over the years, being fully supportive of the sports complex. And I just feel happy to be sitting here when you make the decision, since I won't be on council when this decision is made. But so I'm just really happy to see this happen. It's been very important for me to be a part of this. And I appreciate being part of this group. So thank you.
Thanks, Pat. That was really nice to hear. Nice words. And we've appreciated having you here as well. Been one of the most dedicated liaisons, if not the most, that we've had. Mike Kwasny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, on that note, I'd like to thank Pat for all he's put into our community, and I'm pretty sure he'll probably stay involved. I don't doubt that at all. So thank you for all you've done, Pat. I'm also in with Eric on the dream, and I like the idea of this dream, and I think it's a well thought out dream. You know, we've got two things going on, these last two items that we've considered that I think are game changers in our community. And I'm proud to say that I think that these will make a difference and that we have been involved, and I also am in. So I guess I would make a motion to accept this.
Create the district.
Create the district. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
All right, Mike made the motion to create the tax increment financing district for the Rapid City Catalyst District, and Vince seconded that motion. And comments on the motion, Haven.
So we've had some discussion about vision, and I've driven Tiff Boulevard to the undeveloped dirt road, Tiff Boulevard, and Tish. You know, that development around that portion of Tish Boulevard doesn't really fit in with what we're trying to do here, and I don't know what, if anything, has what's been thought about that, or if there's anything that can be done.
So a couple of things. It's a great statement, great question. A couple of things with that. As far as Liberty Land and the sports complex, the idea, you know, I was just spoken about the walkability. The idea is with how Liberty Land is set up throughout its different components, you don't feel like you're leaving one component into a new component. It just feels like, you know, the idea now is the sports center to kind of tie into that as well. Shared parking, walkability across 143rd, because there's going to be youth involved, and that's, you know, could be dangerous. So those ideas are being discussed, and how to work out those details, you know, for that portion. As far as how other developed areas fit in, I know on the Liberty Land, and the sports complex will be the same thing. We definitely identify that, and it has been part of our discussions. But with these developments, if you look at the big development in Florida, if you've ever been there, if you look around the outskirts of that park, doesn't fit in with that big development down in Florida. And so there's ways to build around, your environment to make it look, less encompassing as far as the existing develop around it, to where you're just feeling the theme and the development of what you're in. So there's ways of improving Liberty Land and Sports Complex through beautification, things like that to kind of tie in. And then as far as future, it's, as far as future development, with the sports complex out there and Liberty Land growing out there, it may hopefully spur, future development. More people want to be out there, commercial businesses. Who knows what this area will look like in 5, 10, 20 years.
All right, Vince.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And again, thanks, Pat, for your comments and your emotion. Vicki mentioned that we visited this project in the past, the Liberty Land, and I was here for that. And what happens is you do have a vision. You do try to create, well, if this happens, what happens next? One of the things that I mentioned earlier with Tom is that when it comes to housing, I said workforce housing. And of course, we had a comment earlier that talked about affordable housing. And are they two different things? Well, maybe. But, it is a project that if you had just took that initial step, and now this sports complex came up. Now, one of the benefits I can already think of for this sports complex is when there are events at Monument and Central High School has events, there sometimes is competition. That helps alleviate it. That helps us expand. And I believe we're growing in the right direction. And I appreciate all the efforts that were put into this. Thank you.
Eric Hikas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick story. Years ago, I was a soccer coach, and we traveled all over the region. I always came home with an empty wallet. Like, we bought hotel rooms and dinners and shopping, and I'm like, well, why can't our community engage more of this economy? And I think this is a step in that direction of attracting regional tournaments and activities here that also bolster our economy. So I just forgot to add that to my previous things.
All right. Motion on the floor is to approve the district. I got one quick question, Mike.
Yeah.
How soon does the project plan need to come in statutorily? Like, is there a limit to, after creating the district, a point where we need it in?
I think, is that within the 5 year?
And then, but is any improvements also limited to that 5 years from district creation?
Yes.
Or from project plan?
Yes.
So there is a.
Yes, the plan is to have the project plan before you, I would hope by year end, if
Awesome.
not sooner.
Great. The only reason I asked that is the indoor recreation part of this, the sports complex. We need that in Rapid City. We need to stop sending our citizens on the road to tournaments in other areas. Not that they'll stop, but maybe they'll stay here a couple weekends, and maybe we can get some of those communities people back. I just don't want to see that endangered by waiting on the second potential part of this.
Sure, and that part should be resolved soon, and we are working tirelessly behind the scenes of getting that project plan
Awesome.
to you soon.
Great. Anything else on the motion from the commission? All right. All those in favor of creation of this tax increment district, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 10. Is this you, Kip? Try to follow that up.
Sorry, Kip.
Well, it's your lucky day because usually I'd go on a little bit more, but since I'm following the Mike Dugan show, I'll keep this short and sweet. So before you today is the draft 2026 to 2029 Transportation Improvement Program. This lists all of our transportation-related projects over the next 4 years. In this, you'll find a listing of all the projects and the associated financing with them. I'll hit a couple highlights really quickly here. Maybe, if this will work. There we go. So based on their tip, as you can see on this chart here, over the next 4 years, the South Dakota Department of Transportation is anticipating spending over $470 million on roadway projects throughout the Rapid City region. That's a lot of money coming to our community, help really improve transportation. And then if you add in the transit funding as well, that puts us closer to $500 million. Put in some fancy charts for you so you can see how it's broken down year by year. And then as you go farther down, it starts listing some of the local projects as well. So I just want to highlight that the DOT projects are listed by category type, and then we get farther down and break into all the local projects by various jurisdictions throughout the metropolitan planning area. Just want to use this opportunity for a couple shameless plugs. So the first is that the STIP meeting, which is meetings on this entire South Dakota Department of Transportation project listing, will be held on Tuesday, July 15th at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. That will be a virtual meeting. You can get a link through the DOT website, and they will also be hosting people at their region office out on Eglin Street if you would like to go out there and witness the presentation from the South Dakota Department of Transportation. There will be a second opportunity for input, and that is Thursday, July 17th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and that one will be virtual only. So if you're interested in putting your input in on these projects, those are your opportunities to do so. One note is that since the STIP meetings have not been held, these DOT projects are very subject to change, so that is the draft report. You will see the final come back in August once those projects have been finalized by the Transportation Commission. I will stand for any questions on the tip.
All right, Karen.
I don't have a question, but I do want to commend you also on the professionalism that you put together and in getting, this is a big job for you to do all this stuff, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Haven.
My question, I guess, is the cooperation with the DOT. So if this is not approved, then how does that affect the DOT moving ahead with their projects?
DOT will still move ahead of their projects because those are approved by the Transportation Commission. This is just a document that's required through the MPO to identify all the projects and their fiscal constraint.
And what's the relationship between the city and the DOT as far as funding, equipment, personnel?
So DOT pretty much handles all their business and the city handles their business, but we do coordinate very well with them. We have quarterly coordination meetings where we all sit down together, work through our projects, make sure projects aren't overlapping. So a good case in point is the Sheridan Lake Road reconstruction project will be done before the Katrin Boulevard interchange project begins. So we're not tying up that area of the community with two large construction projects at the same time. There is a lot of coordination with utilities, however. Our Public Works Department and Engineering Department work well with DOT, so when DOT is tearing up one of the state highways in our community, city uses that opportunity to reconstruct utilities underneath that roadway when necessary.
All right, anything else for Kip today? Motion to approve the draft report, maybe? All right.
Second.
Karen made the motion. Vince seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right.
If we
we've
could
got
go through a couple staff items.
Vicky.
First, I do want to say that we want to give our thanks to Pat Roseland for the service that he has given the city, not only sitting on city council, but he sits on so many other boards and other committees, making a difference. And there's something about Pat that can't be said about all of us that join up for things is he shows up. Yeah. When he's assigned to something, he shows up and he participates, and he's valued in it. So rest assured that even though he will be stepping down from city council Monday night, we've got plans for Pat. We've got some board openings that we're working on Pat helping us fill. And as we do study groups internally on different things, we'll be reaching out to Pat to see if he can assist us with those as well. So you're going to see him around in a different capacity, but Pat is Pat, and we adore what he brings to the table every day. And so if you'll join me in a big round of applause for Pat.
Definitely. Try to follow that, Eric Hikas.
Okay. Well, I can't touch that. Pat's a good friend, and I've served on boards with him. I completely appreciate him. So I'm going to make a little comment, which I just want to add to the record. My wife takes me to rummage sales. We walk around a lot, right? We drive around the town trying to find these places where the rummage sales are. It's kind of a fun adventure, right? And here's the observations I'm having. Rapid Cityans are fixing up houses. We are, we're going into neighborhoods. We are revitalizing. We are mixed developing. We are infilling. And our community's starting to look pretty good, right? People are making the best of what they can. Now, there's a huge and not so exciting contrast to that. All around that is crumbling infrastructure. There is bad streets, bad sidewalks, bad storm drainage, bad everything. It's like, oh my gosh, are we still driving on all this? It's like, so we need to start catching up as a community with that, because the people that are moving here, like Tom Johnson said, are kind of under the expectation that we're going to see a vibrant city that has paved roads that meet at least the minimum requirements. So that's our challenge now, I think, as the city grows. Let's start catching up. You know what I mean? And that always doesn't mean that we're not going to pay taxes, right? Then we might have to pay some taxes and fix some stuff. So there it is.
Yeah. Great comment, Eric. Growth includes reinvestment. Karen Ballman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo your comments, Eric. I think the biggest challenge that the community has, not just for economic development, because we're now on a road to really making a difference, I think, in that, but it's the infrastructure, like you said, and the housing that people can afford, and houses, not apartments. And so those are two big challenges, I think, for the community as a whole and for all the boards and the city council to work on. And good luck.
Karen, you said something earlier. A motion, I think.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I have one more staff item, please.
All
Thank
right.
you. So we are bringing before you today a proposed major street plan amendment. State law allows for the Planning Commission to direct staff to amend the major street plan without having to go through some of the onerous notification requirements. So in this case, we were requesting that. So as we were speaking earlier about the Highway 16 Katrin Boulevard project, that is about to undergo an interchange project. And as we're speaking about economic development, we've had some people come in looking at this northeast corner, which is currently undeveloped, at making that into some sort of development as well. So with the interchange project, there will be a movement of Promise Road to the north to allow for that interchange. And so as you can see, there is additional right-of-way along the east side of Katrin, and then coming off, of 16, I'm sorry, and then coming off of Katrin. But this right-of-way does not connect through these two parcels. Does not allow us to preserve that corridor without this being on the major street plan. So as it stands right now, someone could come in and do some sort of development that would preclude that roadway connection from ever being made. And once this is reconstructed into an interchange, we feel that this is a very critical component in our transportation system to be able to have that secondary access to these properties without having to utilize Highway 16, Katrin Boulevard, and the interchange. So kind of like a frontage road almost. So what we'd like to request from you today is the Planning Commission to direct staff to amend the major street plan by adding this portion of a proposed collector street that would extend Healing Way from south of Katrin Boulevard north up to its intersection with Highway 16 and that new intersection with Promise Road that will be constructed here in the near future.
Okay. Vicky, maybe, or Kif, can you provide some, like, we don't have to publicly notify people on this, or does this come back as an
This will be
agenda
publicly
item?
notified as part, it'll come back as a comprehensive plan amendment, but we don't have to do all the letters to all the landowners and things like that within the certain area. So that it just saves us a little time, and we want to get this going because we have some serious looks at development right there and the possibility of not being able to make this connection prior to that construction of the interchange.
Mr. Chair?
Vicky, yeah.
While we will not, without your direction, it would require the underlying property owners to sign the application. We'll let them know.
Gotcha.
In fact, 2 of the 3 major players, they want this. The other one already has an H lot going through it, so that right-of-way is already preserved in that property. Their concern is that at some point, if we don't get it on the major street plan, and someone buys, some of this land is for sale, someone buys it, they could put a building in the area of the proposed street, and we'd lose that connection forever. We'll notice them, it just doesn't require their signature anymore on this, on the application.
My next question's for you, Vicky. As
Sure.
you know, I'm friends with one of the landowners in this area who has decided to copy me on quite a few emails regarding some of this land in here. I'm guessing I should abstain from this, but I just want to...
If you're not financially vested in his projects,
I
you
am
do not
not.
have to abstain from this.
Okay.
This is just a land use decision. It could be any street anywhere. Typically, you do assist us and you give us that direction, knowing full well that we will still notice them. We just don't have to sit on standby waiting to track down signatures.
Makes sense.
They still have the ability to come to these meetings and convince you otherwise if they don't agree.
Mike Kwasny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank you for identifying this. This is the stuff that I've talked about, is to identify these needs in our community, the roads that are necessary to make traffic run smoothly. So thank you for identifying this and fixing the problem before it is a problem. So we have to propose, we have to direct you to do this. That's all we're saying is we make a motion to direct you.
The power of the Planning Commission, when you direct us to do it, that does then open up a different procedural allowance for us, and you assist us when you do that.
Well, I would direct you to do it. So if we need a primary and a secondary, I don't know what we have to do.
Just make a motion. And,
I make a motion.
All right.
And I'll second that.
Okay, Mike Kwasny made the motion to direct staff to propose a major street plan amendment. And Vince seconded that motion. Alicia? Oh, I lost you. Sorry. Can you request again?
Thank you. My only comment, I am familiar with this spot, but I think going forward, if we're, just for context, either like an aerial or labeling the streets, just to better understand the importance of the connections. I do understand this one's important, but just so I can make sure for just future labeling and whatnot. But thank you, and I think this makes sense.
When this comes back before you, this will have a slightly updated and better map for your look.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Vince?
I just want to make sure I knew how to do that for the next meeting. Anyway, no, Alicia, I've been through this area so many times, so yes, but I agree with you. I was looking at it, would like to see some names on these on these roads, but I get this project. Thank you.
All right, then motion is to direct staff to propose the major street plan amendment as presented. Any discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, anything else? Okay. Karen made the motion to.
Sorry, one more thing. I'm
What?
sorry.
No.
Just another quick plug. Tonight in this very room is the public open house for the draft Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which will take us out to the year 2050. So it's a plan that we do every 5 years. So you've got a list of recommended prioritized projects that are with that, and you'll have a great opportunity to provide public input 4 to 6 p.m. here in the council chambers and next door in the Circle of Friends community room. So I got a lot going on, sorry.
Tonight.
Tonight.
All right.
Today.
Sounds good. All right, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I heard that you may have missed an opportunity to be on the radio today because I heard you were supposed to be at 9 o'clock on the radio.
That is correct. I do have word from our communications coordinator, Daryl Shoemaker, that I will probably have the opportunity to talk about this project tomorrow, unfortunately after the fact of the open house, because we wanted to get some word out for the open house, but since the Mike Dugan show kind of took that my opportunity away from me, I'll blame it all on him. However, we have had some good media coverage of this open house tonight already, so hopefully we'll get a good turnout and get some good public input.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
I'm just going to pause for a second.
One moment.
One of those days.
All right, Karen made the motion to adjourn, and Mike Kwasny seconded that motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.